What's going on, y'all? Now, look, with all the madness that's going on with Young Chop, Chop out here getting into it with everybody from New York to Philly. A lot of the top artists in the industry, he going at them and he's snapping off and telling everybody about them. But it's really making me reminisce on the drill era, the drill scene that came out of Chicago, Illinois, starting around like 2010. The term drill was coined by an individual named Dro or Pac-Man from Drove City, located around what's that on 64th and 65th and Ellis. It's crazy because when I was a shorty, a little boy, I used to live on 65th and Minerva, which is only a few blocks down from Ellis, right? But anyway, Dro coined the term drill, and then King Louie, his close friend and associate, who was also a rapper, started to make the term popular in his songs. When he started to release mixtapes like Chirac Drillinois, and then he had another mixtape called Boss Shit as well. So he started to push the term drill. Now at the same time that King Louie was bubbling, it was some other young individuals in the city that had a following that was developing a buzz or huge following, right? One of those individuals, the first one I heard was Lil Durk. Durk had a song called Sneak Dissing, and he had another song called I'm a Hitter. And that was like getting a lot of views and a lot of clicks. And a lot of people was either sharing it on Facebook or they was quoting a lot of the lyrics that Durk was spitting in that sneak dissing on Facebook, right? Especially that sneak dissing on your status, Facebook could get you damaged. They was like quoting that a lot on Facebook. But then another person that upped the ante was Chief Keef. Now Keef was only 15 years old, but Keef and Durk are closely affiliated. They come from their hoods are linked up for real, for real. So they was all together, 300. All of them was together, and they always all were producing music that the world had to stop and pay attention to. And for me, it was something that I had never seen before because most of the artists that came out of Chicago, Illinois, that had any mainstream appeal were all conscious artists. Guys like Kanye, Common, Lupe, and Ryan Fest. Even though Ryan Fest never really was commercial or mainstream, but he had a song with Kanye, the brand new joint that put him in that little limelight for a small moment, right? But most of the individuals were conscious rappers. So for me to see dudes that was really like gang affiliated, that was really like I'm gonna be real with y'all. As much as the positive images, they did a great thing for a lot. They did great things for a lot of the black men in Chicago, putting the positive images like Kanye and them did all that. The images like they really didn't reflect what was going on in our city during those time periods. Keith and Dirk and them were really reflecting the environment in Chicago, especially the South and West sides, or over East as well, during that time period. So for me, I was just shocked to see the world gravitate to this sound and these dudes talking about gritty, violent. They had gritty, violent, street influenced rap lyrics, right? But the people were in awe. They were in awe by it. They were. I guess they was just like enamored with it in a certain way. They was just like fascinated with it. And these like street tales were told over heavy trap influenced beats. Even though drill has generally a slower tempo than trap beats. But they were told over these menacing beats, and these dudes was talking about their everyday life. They started to depict the harsh realities of their surroundings, or the harsh realities of being raised by the streets, and while living in a gang infested neighborhood. And I was just like, I remember during this time because when Keith started the bubble with Bang, the Bang mixtape, and the Back from the Dead joint. Bang dropped in 2011, and Back from the Dead dropped in 2012. But when Back from the Dead came out, that's when Don't Like dropped in like March of 2012. And I remember me and my boy Melvin was in his dorm room. This was when Young they had just dropped the video. Right, shout out to D Gaines because D Gaines was instrumental to the drill scene during that time period. The Don't Like video just had dropped, and I promise y'all, as soon as I heard the beat drop, I knew it was over with. I knew Keith and them was gonna blow. I knew Young Chop was gonna blow, and I knew they was gonna get away from Chicago, and they wasn't gonna come back. And I knew they was gonna catch the world by storm, and they did just that. And for me, it made me so proud because I had a soundtrack to my college years because you had to play Keith. You had to play Don't Like. You had to play Love Sosa. You had to play Dirk. This Ain't What You Want. Like, I was in Mississippi and it was playing this music, and it was just like the world was catching on to it and was falling in love with it so much that they was getting radio interviews from the top radio stations in New York City, the Breakfast Club. They was on Hot 97 and all of that because the world wanted to know what was going on in Chicago and what was this drill scene what was this drill word or this drill scene that was coming out of the city, right? And the young rappers today, and anybody can tell you this, Dirk and Herbo and Keith and Reese and Fredo and all of them and Rondo and all of them influenced a lot of the young rappers that are bubbling now, and they will tell you that out their own mouth. Chicago's influence from the drill scene reaches so wide that you hear rappers from Atlanta, from New York, from California using words like op, thought, no lacking, phonem, and all that type of stuff. And those were Chicago slangs that Dirk and them introduced to the world through their music. But I always joke and I say this. Keith gave more troubled youth job opportunities in Chicago than the former mayor Rahm Emanuel, because from that point on, nobody was doing it. Like Keith was on house arrest at 16 years old and was making videos in his grandmother's living room, in the alley, by his grandma's house, in the backyard, in his bedroom, like stuff that was unheard of. Nobody would even thought to do. Keith was doing it, and it started to make other people realize, hey, I could do the same thing. I'm a young dude, and hey, I can go and get a camera and record and get somebody to record me outside on the block, or and Keith and Dirk and them was all doing it. Reese, let me just say this. The original Don't Like is way better than that remix that Kanye and them did. But I know Kanye, Keith and them appreciated that look from Kanye, because it put them into another stratosphere. When Kanye West fans, you know how big Kanye fan base is. When Kanye's fan base started to catch a hold to Keith and really stopped and listened, damn, these young boys was doing something. Keith and Dirk and them had their own Reese, and people was using Reese flow, that little stop stutter flow that he was using. People was even using that flow and using the ad libs that they was making and all of that. So it had a profound effect on the world. And I gotta shout out a lot of the major players in the drill movement. And Young Chop was definitely a major player in the drill movement. As you know, he's acting wild right now, but Chop was like Dr. Dre and Keith was like Snoop. No lie, they went hand in hand, and they produced bangers from Don't Like to Love Sosa, and the list goes on and on. And I can't forget about DJ Ken, the young Asian producer, and Ken shot videos too, I believe. A young Asian producer who was really making the beats for Keith's first couple of mixtapes, that Bang mixtape. A lot of that was produced. Most of that was produced by DJ Ken, if not all of it. Ken had It's Cracking and all them songs, Bang and all of that. Ken was the one that was he was introducing the sound. He was kind of revolutionary in that drill sound with them beats that he made, him and Young Chop. And Ken, to me, I said Young Chop was Dr. Dre. Ken, to me, was like a Timbaland, right? He was like Timbaland or Scott Storch or something like that for Keith during that time period. I gotta shout out D Gaines, because D Gaines was the videographer for a lot of the early videos from Dirk, Reese, Keith, SD, Fredo, and all of them. He was the videographer. He was recording all of these images. He was making their songs come to life. Him, D Gaines, as well as AZ. Zay was out here shooting Dirk and Reese and all them videos too. D Gaines and AZ were the main ones. AZ Productions. They were the main ones shooting videos for these artists. Now it's time for me to shout out the artists. Keith, Dirk, King Louis, Reese, Fredo, SD, Herbo, all of them, man. I was so proud as a Chicagoan, not because they were talking about violence or nothing like that, but to see these young men make a way out of nothing. Come from poverty, come from some of the craziest backgrounds you could ever imagine. Keith mama had him when she was 15. She got more of a friend relationship with her son than a mother-son relationship. Keith was raised by his grandmother. And in the streets, Dirk and them all was in the streets heavy. And they was they came from nothing. I mean, sharing clothes, wearing just regular white tees, to driving foreign cars and living in mansions and having record deals and doing interviews and even having albums come out. Dirk had 2 albums to drop. They gave him a budget for 2 albums, Def Jam did. And Keith Sosa had the Finally Rich album that came out that was crazy. That album had bangers after bangers, man. That Finally Rich album was dope. And he kept producing mixtapes after that. Everybody, and I always say this, Keith opened up the floodgates for the city. While Dirk was the first person I see to get a lot of the big views, him and Louis, Keith was the first one to get the outstanding views, to put a magnifying glass on the city, to make these labels come in and rush in and find out what was going on in Chicago. And they started signing everybody by the swarm. Keith got a deal to Interscope for $6 million. Dirk got a deal. Dirk and Reese got deals to Def Jam. King Louis signed to Epic. And everybody started running to Young Chop for beats to make their production because they know he was the hottest dude in the city. And like the lyrics that they were talking were so real because it was raw. It was the unfiltered truth for a lot of the young men in the city. Even if you wasn't gangbanging, the stuff that they talked about, going having to go through different neighborhoods, you being from a neighborhood that some other people don't like, or you know what I mean, all this type of stuff. Just like, and even the fashion of the clothes that we like to wear, Keith and them talked about it, and wearing the wheat Tims or the butters as we call them, and all of that. Like, it was really depicting the environment of the city during that time period, and it had a profound effect on the hip hop scene. Even the dude 6ix9ine, I know he's a hated person in hip hop right now, but he said he even admitted he was heavily influenced by the drill scene, especially Rondo Number 9, who's currently locked up. But yeah, man, like, I will never forget that drill scene, man. It really had me proud to be from the city when I was in school, because you had to play these artists, man, and they was producing content. They was making videos all the time, and really, I got to shout out to Dirk, because he sustained well after the drill era to make his name even bigger. He getting collaborations with everybody, man. But shout out to everybody that were major players in the Chicago drill scene. You cannot be forgotten. Even my boy Young Chop, even though he acting wild now, man. But the drill scene was epic.